Hello, Professor Johnson. Thanks for
Hello.
joining us today. I'll start with, can architecture be taught and why?
Oh, you switched the order on me here. Actually, I think that's a really interesting question because I think that architecture can be learned. I'm not sure it can be taught. You can't be passive in trying to think about the skills and systems of architecture. And so I think it's very possible to break down the tools and techniques that we use, but if someone's not connecting those as a mindset, they're not just skills, they're a framework of thinking, then it becomes a kind of broken street. It's not a one-way street teaching. So I think it can be learned. I'm not sure that it can always be taught, and that depends on who the person is in many ways.
What is still missing in the architecture education system, and what do you see unnecessary to teach nowadays?
So I was thinking about this, and the idea of still missing, as though there was something we've never been able to include in architectural education. And I think I would answer this question very idealistically, which is that what I wish wasn't missing was a kind of form of preparation that has to do with that, getting into that mindset, that people come with a broad cultural understanding or a sense of inquiry, that they think analytically maybe about different systems, but they can bring that to thinking about architectural systems. I wish we didn't have to teach rote training. I think the notion of instruction is a kind of passé question, although I think many people come to university, even at the university level, assuming that they're here to receive instruction. And I think that hinders them, because we will always have a discourse forever in tools and techniques. That's not the question.
How do you push the boundaries of architecture education?
So I don't really think there are boundaries unless you are willing to accept regulatory systems, other people's definitions of what architecture is. I think that to recognize boundaries in a way is, or to not recognize boundaries maybe is the most radical way to push the boundaries. I do think that for an educator, the question is always about where is the center, where is the periphery. And I think for some people the center is tools, techniques, methods, and the periphery is values and ideas. I think in a way, actually, for me, it's a little bit of the inverse, that the core is the values and ideas, and that comes not from the professors, but from the students and professors in dialogue. And the peripheral questions are, okay, which methods, which tools, which techniques? That's always an age-old question, but defining that is our challenge, always.
How can we educate the general public about architecture?
Make better buildings. I mean, it's seriously, unless we just care, we can only operate within our discipline, right? And if we care to make better built environments that change people's lives or make them harder, maybe in some ways, challenge them, make the built environment something they recognize as something they kind of passively move through their whole lives, I think we can't do anything. So I don't think it's about having lectures and conference and symposia and teaching people how to think like architects. I think it's just making the built environment better, which means we have to be better about those tools and techniques and mindsets.
What is the architectural degree worth to you?
The piece of paper is worth nothing. It's just a symbol. I mean, I guess you could argue in contemporary society, it allows me to do some things and not other things. The education is worth everything to me. I mean, it's kind of what I said previously, that it's a mindset. I mean, I see the world analytically. I see the world as forms and humans, things and spaces. And I got that from my multiple degrees, actually. The piece of paper, insofar as it's a symbol of that, is important to me, but the actual degree, I think, is not the question. It's like that 6 years of school was a kind of starting point for a way to think, and I continue to feel like a student even as a teacher. The degree, I think, as an absolute is, I think it's a problem when people think that that's really what it's about. So the education is worth everything.
Professor Johnson, thank you so much.
Sure.